Hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of a brand new series here on my channel. In fact, the first series on my channel, as today we'll be diving into TEW 9 and booking Dream Star Fighting Marigold, which is the newest Joshi wrestling promotion in Japan, kind of founded on a few big departures from Stardom. If you know of Stardom, I'm sure you know of Marigold. And since the company is still kind of in its infancy stage, I think it would be pretty fun to run through it, book it in its early years, build it into something bigger. I don't exactly have an end goal for this series, though I would like to overtake Stardom and be the top Joshi wrestling promotion in Japan. And then depending how big our aspirations are, maybe we can become the #1 company in the world, though that is going to take a lot more work. So I have not made any signings. I have not touched anything aside from the schedule to line it more up with the real life schedule, because converting schedules from 2020 to TEW 9 has not exactly worked well for Japanese companies. But as you'll see in probably the first few shows, honestly, there's going to be a few signings that I make to flesh out the roster. But as it stands, the Marigold roster, we have Bozilla, Chiaki, Chikagoto, Julia, who will be leaving for NXT in about 30 days, Kizuna Tanaka, Komomo Minami, Koki Amare, Mai Sakurai, who is one half of the Marigold Twin Star champions, Miku Ono, who is our Marigold United National Champion, Mirai, who is the other half of the Marigold Twin Star Champions, Misa Matsui, Myla Grace, Nagisa Nozaki, Nanai Takahashi, Nao Ishikawa, Natsumi Shozuki, who is the current Marigold Superfly Champion, Rhea Seto, Sari, who is the current Marigold World Champion, Utami Hayashishita, Victoria Yuzuki, Yuki Minami, and Zeta Steel. There's definitely a few freelancers in the Joshi scene that I would like to bring into Marigold, give them some spotlight, help flesh out the division a bit more. And there's also a few foreign wrestlers that I think would make a good fit into Marigold and help to expand the few divisions that we have. As for our current schedule, I have not touched it beyond September, because probably by the time we get through the Dream Star GP, I will be converting this save over to the proper version of the Real World Chronicles mod, just to not have to do the entire schedule manually, because as you can see, there's some dates just out of order, especially as we get further along the schedule. So it's going to be a lot for one person to deal with. So I am trusting the Real World Chronicles modding team, who shout out to them in the Discord server. They're doing a wonderful job. But we'll begin about halfway through the Marigold Summer Gold Shine tour on night 6 of 12. So we will have about 7 shows to get ourselves warmed up into the booking of the company. Before we get to the Dream Star GP, I am uncertain about running it as an 8-night tournament. I might expand it, but I think 8 nights will work so long as we do the planned 8-person per block format that Marigold is going with in real life. I cannot promise the tournament will be identical. I will have some new faces in the company by then that I will definitely want to get involved with the Dream Star GP. So we'll see if the tournament stays at 16 people. We'll see if it gets bumped up to 20, but those are all things to worry about for the future. Marigold currently does not have any stables, but as the company grows and as we progress along, that is definitely subject to change. But our current teams are Kizuna Tanaka and Victoria Yuzuki, Mirai Saku, who are our current Marigold Twin Star Tag Team Champions, Myla Grace and Zeta Steel, and Twin Tower, which is the team of Koki Amare and Chikagoto. And real quickly, just because we start with $1.2 million, I am going to upgrade the production just so that we're in par to run on Wrestle Universe, and we're not going to gain any penalties for our appearance. However, I might have to end up downgrading things again if we do start to run in the red from doing shows, because I've experienced with other saves, just because you have the money to upgrade does not mean you can consistently keep that money. We're currently small size and about a third of the way toward medium size, which is going to take longer than it would take to drop down to small if things started to go awry. But I think we'll be steadily growing popularity wise. I am not certain that we'll be steadily growing financially. But until we run into that problem, I am just going to go ahead and upgrade the levels to up to what they need to be for Wrestle Universe, which is a lot higher than I was expecting. So I feel like we will probably run into some financial issues with especially running like industry standard for broadcast quality, high production values. But we'll see how that impacts everything financially before we downgrade it yet. As initially it's only put about a 30k dent into our starting available money. I've already gone ahead and set up the booking team. So there is my user character with my cute little badger icon, Fuka, Nanai Takahashi, and Razio Gawa. They're on a probationary period until the end of September, so it's going to be a bit of a little warm-up, as well as I have a personality clash with Nanai Takahashi, but there's a very solid booking lineup. My booking still started at 91 because I imported this user character from another save where it started with 0, so I don't know how much that will impact my overall booking and especially the creative team, but hopefully it won't be a drastic impact enough that I have an unfair advantage. I've also gone about setting up the inner circle, though a lot of this is subject to change. Our current locker room leaders are Fuka and Julia. Julia will be gone soon. She also has the role of Chief Enforcer, so hopefully another person that we sign will be able to fill these roles. Fuka is also being a little overworked in the backstage area. She is currently the head of talent relations and the senior road agent, as well as a locker room leader. Our travel organizer is Sari. She will be here in the long term, so I don't have to worry about replacing her in this role. Our current morale officer is Chikagoto. I trust her above anyone else to really get the locker room into their happiest spirits. And our current head women's trainer is Nagisa Nozaki. We do not have a senior referee, as Marigold's starting roster only has one referee whose personality is not suited to this role. And we don't have a stooge because the people on the roster are too nice. But all these are subject to change with future signings. So we'll see how these roles shape up in the future. If there are any notable changes, I will address them and keep you guys updated on the inner circle in the backstage area, as well as any backstage incidents that happen. We have 2 days before Summer Gold Shine Night 6 takes place. In that time off screen, I will be making some additional signings, particularly road agents, referees, people who are going to help us out in the long term to just have them, as well as a few workers that I will want to get on the early shows and just test the waters for them before we get to the important Dream Star Grand Prix in the near future. And as I am playing as the booker, we will also have our first owner goals coming in tomorrow that I will be sure to check out before making any signings. So I'm going to advance our first day and we'll check back in for the owner goals. Okay, so we are here one night before our next event and we have new owner goals. So our goals for about the next 2 years for all 3 of them is Marigold cannot fall into debt at any point. We cannot hire or extend the contract of anybody who has a reputation less than 45, and we cannot hire or extend the contract of any wrestler who has less than 45 in psychology. So I believe, considering this says any wrestler, that will not affect us signing any additional referees who don't really have psychology. So I am going to quickly go and make some signings, and we will join back for the pre-show activities of our first event. All right, and here we are before the show. None of the contracts that I offered out were accepted within the 1 day, which is not too surprising, but we'll be seeing them within the next few shows. As for giving the night off to people, I don't really have anyone I can give the night off to at this point. when more foreign talent comes in and the roster expands more, I will definitely be giving people the night off. But for now, we're going to leave everyone available to be booked. As for the venue, we're going to want to look somewhere in the 1 to 300 range. More like 2 to 300 actually, I think would be better. Itabashi Green Hall is not too bad of a place to go. That has about a 250 capacity, and we're expecting 240 fans. So I am going to go with Itabashi Green Hall as the venue. No pre-show incidents, thankfully. Booking team meeting does not happen on tour shows. But the locker room incidents for today, Fuka has been passing on tips on using psychology to her protege Natsumi Shozuki. Suri has been talking to Komomo Minami a lot recently and seems to be having some degree of influence over her behavior. Chiaki was brought before the wrestler's court, accused of being an hour late to pick up her assigned travel partner. The judge, Nanai Takahashi, found her guilty and sentenced her to pay for her travel partner's meals for the next 3 shows. And Nagisa Nozaki ran pre-show training drills to work on basics and safety for 10 of our students. And before the show, we're going to address the locker room by team bonding, and serves to create, definitely strengthens the relationships, but there is new tensions between Rasiogawa and Suri. So hopefully nothing too bad comes between them at any point, but I would like to have a very strong relationship between everyone in the locker room, of course. So the pre-show has been completed and we move on to booking of the main show. So I will join you guys again when the booking is complete. All right, the first show of the save has been booked. It's nothing too exciting. It's your average tour show, but it is going to give us a feel for direction heading into the Dream Star Grand Prix. Also, kind of going to give me as a booker an idea of who is delivering, who could use a little extra time before getting put into the spotlight. So just going to be me almost hyper analyzing everything that goes on for the first few shows as I get into the swing of booking with a lot of people I have never used before. And our show, it begins with a 3-way match as Komomo Minami, Misa Matsui, and Natsumi Shozuki have a very high speed, if we still call it that in Marigold, face off, not with the Superfly title on the line, but the champion Natsumi Shozuki does not walk away with a victory. Misa Matsui gets the pinfall over Komomo Minami with a Maru X Maru suplex. Komomo is naturally the weak link, pulling only a 14 in the match. Misa Matsui pulls a 45 and Natsumi Shozuki pulls a 38. So Misa Matsui surprisingly outperforming the champion, being the best in the match. A wrestler rating of 32 and a crowd rating of 21 with a segment rating of 39, which is not too bad at all for our first match on the card. And a look at the dirt sheet tells us Komomo received penalties for inexperience, poor psychology, inconsistency, and the low locker room morale, which is interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. Misa Matsui was just holding back and the low locker room morale. And Natsumi Shozuki has a penalty for physical condition, holding back, inconsistency, and again, the low locker room morale. So I will attempt to address the low locker room morale before we get too deep into the save. But following that, we have a tag team match as Nanai Takahashi and the Marigold World Champion Sari team up against Miya Yatsuba, who is a local worker, as did not have enough people to fill out the show the way I wanted to. She teams with Yuki Minami, who has not made her Marigold debut just yet, but she did have some wrestling experience before signing to Marigold, so she is good to go in this save. And in this match, it is, of course, Nanai and Sari getting the victory, Sari pinning Miya Yatsuba with a Sunray dropkick. Sari is, of course, the best in the match with a 51. Nanai is not too far behind at 42. Yuki Minami not doing very great with a 14, and Miya Yatsuba also falling behind with an 18. An overall wrestling rating of 31, a crowd rating of 28, and a segment rating of 38 for this match. As for the dirt sheet, Nanai was penalized for physical condition, holding back, low morale, low locker room morale, and declining physical ability. Suri was penalized for holding back, inconsistency, low locker room morale. Miya Yotsuba was penalized for holding back, being inexperienced, inconsistency, and locker room morale. Yuki Minami was penalized for holding back, inexperience, poor psychology, inconsistency, and the low locker room morale, as well as the segment rating being penalized for an odd face and heel combination. I have not touched the product settings yet. I am probably going to turn off the enforcement of face and heel simply because it does not really work in Japanese companies, especially for like tournaments where heels are going to face heels, faces are going to face faces. That's just naturally what's going to happen. So that will probably get changed for the second show that we run. But for the first show, I will deal with the odd face and heel combinations going on. Next on the card, Utami Hayashishita teams with Nao Ishikawa to face Myla Grace and Zeta Steel, and Utami Hayashishita pulls away with the victory for her team, pitting Myla Grace with a Samoan drop. Utami naturally was head and shoulders above everyone else, pulling a 51 rating. Nao Ishikawa with 28 as the second best in the match. Zeta Steel with a 14, and Myla Grace actually above her with a 16. As well as that, Myla Grace and Zeta Steel don't work well as a tag team. Their timing is all over the place. So, unfortunately for the two Gaijin wrestlers, it is going to be a short run for their tag team. A wrestling rating of 27 for the match, crowd rating of 19, which is our lowest yet, but a segment rating of 37, which, again, is not too bad for our current company popularity. Utami penalized for holding back and the locker room morale. Nao Ishikawa actually only penalized for the locker room morale, so nothing else really holding her back. Myla Grace being penalized for inexperience, poor psychology, and inconsistency, and Zeta Steel for inexperience, poor psychology, and a poor gimmick, as well as the segment rating being penalized for their tag team chemistry. But the crowd is still very hot as we move on to our semi-final match of the night as Chikagoto, Koki Amare, and Rei Seto team up against Mikuwa Ono, Kizuna Tanaka, and Victoria Yuzuki. And in this match, it is the United National Champion Mikuwa Ono getting the win for her team, pinning Rei Seto with a dropkick. Mikuwa Ono was head and shoulders above everyone else, and Rei Seto was the weak link, struggling to keep up with everyone else's in-ring performance. Mikuwa Ono pulled a 44 through the match as the best, Rei Seto with a 15 as the worst. Koki Amare not actually too bad herself with a 35, Chikagoto with a 28, Victoria Yuzuki with 31, and Tanaka with 29. So pretty solid ratings overall, Rei Seto being the lowest of the entire field by a considerable amount, but not too disappointing. Chika was penalized for her inexperience, as well as Koki was, and her inconsistency. Rei Seto also being penalized for inexperience, poor psychology, and inconsistency. Mikuwa Ono was penalized for holding back. Same with Kizuna Tanaka, as well as her inexperience. And then Victoria Yuzuki also took a penalty for holding back, being inexperienced, and another odd face and heel combination in these segments. Following that, we move on to our main event, which certainly delivers as Bozilla teams up with Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki against Julia and the reigning Twin Star champions Mirai Saku, which is Mai Sakurai and Mirai. The match was designed to steal the show, and they certainly delivered as Julia pinned Chiaki with a diving crossbody for the victory. Julia was head and shoulders above everyone else, as we kind of expect from Julia. She pulled a 61 rating, definitely the best of the night by far. Mirai not doing too bad herself with a 45, Nagisa Nozaki with a 41. Mai Sakurai pulling a 33, Chiaki with a 32, and Bozilla at the bottom of the field with a 29. Wrestling rating of 40 overall and a 36 crowd rating for a 51 segment rating, which is very solid for our show. Above our popularity, which is all that really matters for getting good numbers on a show rating. Bozilla was penalized for holding back, being inexperienced, poor psychology, trying to go all out, and inconsistency on top of the low locker room morale that everyone has been penalized for. Chiaki took a penalty for her inexperience and trying to go all out. Naoki Nozaki took a penalty for her physical condition and holding back. Julia was holding back, as well as inconsistency, which is interesting. Mai Sakurai was penalized for trying to go all out, as well as her stamina, which is probably not the best. And Mirai was penalized for holding back and her inconsistency. And once again, the odd face and heel combination penalized the segment as well. But overall, a very good first main event for our first show, and a pretty solid first show overall, as we pull a 48 rating, which doesn't give us any popularity changes. That is to be expected from tour shows unless they're particularly good. And our show also appeared worse because our music production department is worse than at least one of our rivals. As for the show, we did make an overall profit of $3,000, though we're still in debt this month from our production upgrades. We will see just how much those stack up once the monthly running fees have been factored in. And that completes the post show, so we will move on to the next day. And as we return to the office following our first show, that is going to bring an end to the first video in this series. If you did enjoy, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Both of those help me out a lot. And I will hopefully see you next time for part 2, where we will be wrapping up the Summer Gold Shine Tour. See you then.